Welcome to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, the show designed to help make middle age your prime time of life by defying the notion that once you reach 40, 50, or even 60 years old, your crowning achievements are all behind you. Regardless of whether you're just approaching 40 or firmly entrenched in your middle years, it's time to launch your very own personal journey toward a joyful and purpose-filled second half of life. Each week, host Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, will discuss the challenges common to middle age and help guide you to a brighter tomorrow. Now, here's Roy.
Well, hello and welcome, one and all, to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age. I will begin this episode with a couple of startling facts. The first fact, half of all Americans have no retirement savings whatsoever. Does this include you? The obvious solution, even if you're in your 20s or 30s, the sooner you get started saving and investing for retirement or a potential emergency, the better. And here is perhaps an even more disturbing fact. According to recent surveys, 76% of all baby boomers, the youngest of you boomers, are now age 55, and the oldest are 74, aren't confident that they've saved enough for retirement. And to me, that's incredible. If the 76% includes you, do you plan to continue working throughout your 70s, even your 80s, or perhaps envision spending the last 20 to 30 years of your life existing solely on Social Security, perhaps becoming a financial burden on your own kids? Are these the golden retirement years you look forward to? And even if you have assets or income streams set aside for retirement, perhaps a pension, a 401k, or an IRA, there's no better time than this very day and the days, weeks, and comes to come up to a solid planning for the next phase of life. How soon do you plan to retire? What kind of lifestyle do you envision after you retire? And what will it cost to support your intended lifestyle? How much annual income from anticipated assets are they expected to generate, and how much do you anticipate from your pension, Social Security, plus a purposeful gradual drawdown of assets? And the final question, how will you get from here to there in the time remaining before you retire? How are you going to build that retirement nest egg to the estimate amount you'll need for a comfortable, worry-free retirement? And early in 2020, and if you haven't already, this is an excellent time to start a detailed analysis of retirement finances. And my guest today is an excellent resource to help you launch this effort. He is acclaimed financial and retirement planning coach and author, advisor, Beau Henderson. And here are a few of his qualifications. Beau is a best-selling author of 9 books, including the one we'll talk about today, The Rich Life, 10 Investments for True Wealth. As founder and CEO of his own firm, Rich Life Advisors, he has helped over 3,000 clients live the healthy, wealthy, and fulfilled life before and after retirement. He's a public speaker and fellow podcast host. Beau is a retirement income certified planner, a certified long-term care advisor, a national Social Security advisor, and a master certified success coach. Pretty impressive. And he's been featured in Forbes, Wall Street Journal, USA Today, and on Fox, CBS, CW, and CNBC. And hello, Beau. We're honored to welcome you to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. You're talking my language here.
That's good. Let's get right into it. What are your 5 tips for successful retirement? Can you briefly highlight them one by one?
Sure. Yeah, there's several things I think that need to be addressed, and a lot of things we can get into is where I believe our industry or the financial industry has failed the retiree or the consumer. Yeah. But I think the place we start, and it might sound obvious, but it's crucial, is that ask the question, do I have a retirement strategy?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll speak to groups every month here around Metro Atlanta, well, and all over the country for that matter, I'll ask the same question. I will ask anybody in here have a written retirement strategy that if they have one, do they understand it, and two, do they feel confident in it? And out of a group of, say, 30, 50 people, I'll get 3 to 5 people that can answer yes to those questions.
Oh, wow. They're spending a lot of money for nothing then if they're having someone develop a plan that they don't understand and can't follow.
That's it. And I think what tends to happen is most of us are just busy. You know, we're raising families, have a career, and we think we have a lot of time. We wake up and we're 60 years old all of a sudden, and it's kind of gotten away from us. But the thing with the strategy is really what I find most of the time is most people in this country, the retirement strategy is, I've got some stuff I've accumulated over the years, maybe a 401k, maybe a pension, maybe some life insurance, and I'm just going to hope it turns out okay.
Yeah, I hope I'll have enough to get by, and then those that attempt to live on Social Security, lots of luck.
That's right. That's it. So that's it. It's really just have a strategy. This like I love the title. Is this could be the best period of your life.
Yeah.
This could be a long period of your life. Let's spend a little time creating a strategy that makes sense, that moves you towards peace of mind and security. Okay, I'm doing the best I can do. You know, that's one of the big questions I have come up too, is whether people come into the office or we're teaching a workshop is what if there's a better way? People, I think inherently in their back of the mind might think, I could do a little bit better than what my brother-in-law told me I should do, or that person at work said was the right plan, because it's so personalized for every person and every couple.
Well, that's
There's
so
no
true.
cookie cutter approach.
Talk to somebody down the street that invested in X, Y, Z security. and made some money on it.
and I'll move on from the have a strategy, but I think that's the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
It's getting really clear. What are your expenses? What are your incomes? What are your goals? And making sure we're filling those gaps and know we have a plan. For a lot of people, just having that strategy in place is it's a relief once it's in place.
Believe it or not, I think some people are afraid to look at their current finances.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they think they're just taking care of themselves, and they'd rather not know if they have a problem. But it'll be a lot of worse problem in a few years when they need to retire or want to.
Right. You're right, and I think that's right. People don't. It might not be what you want it to be, but you were bringing this up at the beginning of the show. Is the best chance we've got of doing the absolute best we can is start to work on it right now.
Yeah, whatever your age, if you're not working on it, you better get to working on it.
Well, and so the next piece. So we wanted to talk through some of these. The next piece is not being too heavy in safe money, or money that maybe we're needing to draw our income off, or sitting. We don't want all our money in retirement in the bank, or we'll run out of money. Inflation will catch up to us.
Yeah.
Or at the same time, we don't want to have too much money, or necessarily all our money in the market. So if we have a 30% correction, our plan's blown up. So it's really.
And you're going to pass up that 1.5% annual interest of the bank.
Yeah, if you're lucky, right?
Yeah.
So the key with that is this piece is having a growth strategy, and it's really for inflation and long-term needs, but it's making sure it's in the right allocation. Meaning we first solve what's our liquidity need, what's the need to secure our income, at least for the first 10 years or so of retirement, and then what's left we can position for long-term growth. And most people, it's just one big bucket that they're hoping works out with all the jobs of retirement. The next one let's get to, this is huge, is addressing or at least having conversations about health care and long-term care. All right? If that comes up, do we have a contingency for that? And talking through, do we need insurance? Do we have ways to fund it? Are our expenses low enough? But talking through that, because that's a huge expense. Just the health care alone, above insurance, is last statistic I saw was over $264,000 for a couple in retirement. And that's not including any kind of a long-term care in that. So do we have a contingency for that?
Yeah, I just went to the drugstore the other day to get some Eliquis, which I recently was prescribed, and the bill was $528 or something like that. They said, well, that takes care of your deductible for the year. Right.
Right. And so those are those expenses. They add up. Those are the expenses above before the deductible pieces that are going to be out of pocket.
Yeah.
The next piece I'm going to lump together is having an estate and tax plan for retirement. And the reason I bring that up in the retirement planning that I do, and I've done for the last 18 years now with clients, is that I've just seen all the horror stories, the pitfalls. And if we don't have for most people, a will, a financial power of attorney, a healthcare directive, and if we don't have a plan for how, when something happens to us, what are the tax implications of our money passing to our beneficiaries? I see examples all the time of people leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table if they just had a plan for it that was better, doing the best they could. And I really think that's what everybody wants to do. I've not had a person yet say, I don't want to do the best I can.
Yeah, right? The problem is nobody likes to talk about their own debt.
That's it. It's not fun to talk about. Yeah. But you brought up another interesting thing early in the conversation when we were doing the intro coming in, and this goes back to the long-term care piece and even this estate planning piece.
Yeah. Sometimes
the thing to think through is I might not care about it for myself because I'm just me, but let's get beyond that and think about what situation does that leave my spouse in or my kids if I don't address these things. And sometimes that will help get the momentum to get these things set up.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right, one more. We can wrap up this five essential pieces. This is these 5 pieces. These are a process that I go through that I realize that if we don't address and have a plan for each of these areas, then we don't have a complete strategy.
No.
And so this one's interesting, and this one really fascinates me. And this is the non-financial aspects of a successful retirement, and that's things that really people don't talk about. They're not talking about spending some time, having some questions on what does a exciting, fulfilling, meaningful retirement look like to you specifically, and making sure we're building this financial plan to move toward that.
Yeah, the whole point in building the finances is to have a plan of what you really want to do and spend your time on in retirement. You're not retiring from life, you're just retiring from your job. And if you can build that financial security, then you have that great freedom to do what you want, and hopefully it isn't just sitting around with a fishing pole or playing golf every day.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the part that's not talked about, and this is where I believe my industry has failed the consumer, is we need to redefine the definition of a successful retirement. I think for the most part it's been, do the dollars and cents add up?
Yeah.
But what's not talked about near enough is there are spikes in depression, spikes in suicide, even alcoholism, divorce. There's a dark side to retirement, and a lot of that is
when you're suddenly exposed to your wife all day, every day. I can see why sometimes that leads to divorce.
Well, yeah, I've got a
and also
story
can lead
there.
to the best years of your life if you haven't planned right and know what you want to do. If you want to do.
Some honest conversation and figuring out, hey, what are your expectations and ideas and what are mine, and then maybe we can come up with a plan for that.
Yeah.
But that did remind me of a funny conversation. I was meeting with a couple I worked with in Houston. This was last year, and we were out to dinner celebrating this guy's retirement. And he told me, "Hey, Beau, I should have retired 2 years ago. This has been amazing. I love it. It's just fascinating. I'm just so happy." And then on the way out to the parking lot, his wife pulled me aside and said, "Beau, you got to get Jim a job. Find him a hobby. You got to do something because he's driving me crazy." I laugh and tell that story, but there's a little truth to that. It's a different scenario when you're home all the time together.
Well, what is the scary side of retirement that no one wants to talk about, and how do you suggest that our listeners approach that scary part? I know we've sort of been talking around that issue all along on scary things, but what did you have in mind when you talked about the scary part of retirement? I refer to it as that scary or that dark side of retirement. That, I think if we think about what the media sells us, it's that beautiful white-haired couple on their yacht with not a care in the world, and that's just not what real life is like. Right? There's some real stuff going on. Now, I hope you have some great experiences, but so I think how we address that, and what I found. Let me start with another story. This was not long ago. I was sitting down with a Delta pilot, 65 years old. They make you retire. Yeah.
And this guy that was just a very happy, fulfilled person, loved life, was coming to me telling me he's been dealing with severe clinical depression. And the problem is that once he stopped working, basically he lost his identity. He said, I can remember walking down the terminal at Hartsfield Airport, and it was when I was in my uniform, as out of respect, people would kind of part out of the way. Yeah. And it felt so good. And when I lost that job and I was no longer a pilot, I lost part of who I was. So the reason I tell that story, I see that happen in different ways in corporate roles and even other things. But I think a big thing that we could do is not just transition to the retirement financial pieces we talked about when we're leading up to retirement. Let's start planning out, who am I? What does it look like? And start experimenting so we start really planning that first year. I had a principal, similar story. So we spent a year together working on her first semester of retirement just so she wasn't terrified of being lonely, not knowing what to do, losing her routine. Now, don't get me wrong, she was done with teaching. She's had her fill of that, but she was terrified of those things. So I think the part of that is let's start planning a first year. Let's start thinking about, am I going to start a business? Am I going to write a book and be an author? Am I going to volunteer?
Yeah, I was fascinated in your book, The Rich Life. You label each chapter as an investment, but it's not like the typical financial investment. It's an investment that will lead to the rich life and the kind of life that you're looking for. You might tell us a little bit more about how would you define the rich life as opposed to just accumulating more assets?
Right. So the Rich Life, 10 Investments for True Wealth, that was the first book I ever wrote. And till today, it still remains my favorite because it's a philosophy, right? It's what it really, as a young man, I was only 23 years old when I started in this business. Yeah. And I was listening to people much older than me, much wiser than me, especially. I'm getting closser to those people's ages now.
You're getting more wise, or you're just getting older.
Right. As we go, and I've literally had thousands of these conversations at this point, but there was a disconnect between, again, what the world told us and what the world sells us, and what a lot of people will say is the definition of success and wealth and being rich. And I realized the people that are truly happy, yes, there's a crucial, important component of having your finances in your strategy that we talked about. That is one of the core components. It's pretty miserable when you're stressed all the time about paying the bills. We got to get that right. But a lot of the things that people were telling me were priceless, and these are where the investments for true wealth came in, were having more time with the people they care about the most, and intentionally making that a part of your plan. You know how?
Yeah, that's certainly wealth, although a lot of people wouldn't consider it that. But having that opportunity to share things with your loved ones and to share time together. Right,
and that's the. I can't tell you how many people, once they lost someone important to them, said, I wish I just would have thought to have spent more time with them while they were here, or if I could have one more day with them. So that's part of the deal, is let's intentionally plan on that. If these are my 5 most important people, I'm going to put them in the calendar. I want to make it very intentional, because we all know at this point we can snap our fingers and 5-10 years has gone by.
Yeah, you warn us of potential thieves of our wealth between now and the intended date of our retirement, or even after we retire. I understand that not all of these thieves are human, burglars and fraudsters. Can you please identify for us some of the other potential thieves we need to look out for and make plans to combat?
Yeah, I think the 5 thieves, that was actually a chapter in the book that actually it spun out to a small book, just that chapter at one point. But the 5 thieves were things, and that goes back more to the areas of the strategy that were financial. Is just when we don't address thieves like one of them is inflation. When we don't address that, you can see it steals somebody's retirement because they get 15, 20 years into it, and now they don't have enough money to pay the bills.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, you got things like fees, unknowingly paying higher fees than you would have to reach your goal. And again, that could rob you and your family out of money that you could have to use and spend.
And then, of course, there could be a financial emergency, or for that matter, need for long-term care.
Right.
Really
That's
could steal away your retirement.
Yeah, that long-term care without a a contingency plan, that event can wipe a family out of their retirement savings in a year or two. Seen it happen. Premature death. What happens when one spouse in a couple, if we're talking about a couple, when a spouse dies, a lot of things that it makes sense that the income drops, whether it's drawing Social Security, whether you're still working. Income typically drops, but the double whammy that most people miss, when somebody dies, not only does the income drop, taxes go up. Because you go from the highest bracket of married jointly to single, your standard deductions cut in half. So we've got to, I think the key is to know those things and model those things and have a plan for them. I think most people are very reactive in that they don't address it till it gets there. And sometimes that's not a great plan because our options are limited and we just don't know how we're going to navigate it. And sometimes when you're in a desperate situation, you just don't have as good of options.
Yeah, I'd never thought about that tax, but that's a real frightening thought that you're now single, you don't have that married deduction, and that could really hit you there. But, let's talk a bit about your favorite book, the 2015 book, The Rich Life, 10 Investments for True Wealth. In your book, you rightly inform that true wealth, the rich life before and after retirement, is not simply about accumulating assets and making more money. Can you please give us your definition of the rich life?
Absolutely. So here's what's interesting about this question, and I love the way you ask it, is that why the rich life as a philosophy works is because I can't tell you what it is, meaning my definition of a rich life, which means a meaningful, fulfilling life, is going to be very different from yours or any of 10 people I talked to this week. And but we can start getting clear on how do we start figuring that out. And we can go through a process and think of what is it that makes me happy, who are the people I care about the most, and start really putting together what are the things I'd want to do, where would I want to do them, and really starting to think through those things. A lot of people, when I ask what's that plan in retirement, they just don't know. Yeah. They haven't really thought through it, or they're going to address it when they get there. And if you're not careful, that window of some of those dark side of retirement things could creep in.
Yeah, so many people are concentrating on plugging along, getting through each day at a time, that they don't really pay attention to what they keep talking about retirement and how great it'll be, but they don't really take the time to plan it out, either financially or equally important, what they really want to do with their lives.
Yeah. And I think the key is to change our definition of retirement success from just purely money to one of retirement satisfaction, right? Yeah. What makes me feel satisfied, fulfilled, and happy in retirement? Lo and behold, be happy in retirement. And that is a novel concept. But it's what
Alfred
people
E. Newman, don't worry, be happy.
That's right. So I think, and we go to the 10 investments, we talked about relationships, intentionally building that into your retirement plan. Another one that always fascinated me was memorable experiences.
Yeah,
meaning that's another thing people would tell me were priceless were their memories. And the longer they told them and the more they told them, the more valuable they came.
And you plan out the experiences so that you'll have them rather than just waiting for something exciting to happen sitting on the porch.
That's right. Or not using the excuse of, I can't go to Paris with my spouse, so we'll just not do it.
Yeah.
Take her to the park, by the lake. You can do it where you are, because if we're all honest, we think back to our parents or significant others. Some of our greatest memories weren't extravagant gifts or trips. They were normal things, and a lot of it just involved time together. We can plan that.
Well, your book offers 10 investments and one master principle, as you call it, to raise your financial IQ and get back on track, including a blueprint for true wealth. What is that one master principle you talk about?
Yeah, the master principle, I was taught this by a wise teacher decades ago, and it's this concept of hard easy. And the concept of hard easy is that when there's something we want or something we're moving towards, whether it's a life, whether it's a goal, it simply states that when we're willing to do the hard things first, it ensures that things will be easier in the future. And the problem with that is that most of us here in America, we love to do the easy thing now, but unknowingly we're putting it in a situation to where it's going to be harder on us in the future. So whether it's putting that retirement strategy in place, if I raise my hand and said I don't have one, okay, did I set an appointment to work on that? Whether it's I would like to improve my health or my relationships, did I put a plan into place? Did I block out some time every month to have a meeting with a significant friend or something like that? So I think that's the key is learning to do the hard things now to have a successful life in the future versus that's very proactive, a proactive life and kind of a life by design is the way we like to say it.
And what I thought was really great about your book, each chapter, each of the investments, which are a chapter each, include action steps. It's so important that people don't just read through a book. They sit down and do some thinking as they go along. And give us an action step for investment number 3, view life as a school. What would be an action step you include on that?
So it's important. You're right. If we could read something and then just move on to the next book or the next chapter, and it might be a good idea, but it's when we put action to it, it can actually be beneficial, right? So life as a school is an interesting concept, and basically the gist of that is that as we go through life, the things we've been through, good or bad, there's always valuable lessons there.
Yeah.
And we've all been through a different path so I call it a different curriculum. We each had our own unique curriculum designed to move us towards where we want to be or who we need to be.
Yeah.
And one of the exercises for life school is to, instead of just thinking about and focusing on hard things and problems, is kind of flipping that script and asking, what were the lessons I learned there that I can use moving forward to be more powerful and have better results? So it's just different ways. All those action exercises are just different ways to think through things to give us that clearer picture of what is my definition of a rich, fulfilling, meaningful life.
Yeah, and what went right today, and express gratitude toward it, and identify what went wrong, and at those things that went wrong, instead of blaming someone else, look closely at the problem and figure out what you might do next time to do better. I like that. I think those are in the action steps for that particular. Well, give us your website address where folks can learn more about you, listen to your podcasts, and download a free chapter of your book. Where do they go for that?
Yes, to download a free chapter of the book, go to beauhenderson.com. That's BEAU Henderson with SON, HENDERSON.com. There's a chapter of the book, and you can read more about the book there. If you'd like to plug into the podcast, the retirement resource, that's going to be at richlifeadvisors.com. And
I see.
Yeah,
so
and
two good websites to go to then.
Right, and we can. I tell you what, if anybody goes to either website and just puts the name of this show in the comments, anybody that does that, I'll have 5 copies of the 10 investments reserved to send to you absolutely free for listening to the show.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yep, absolutely. No, that would be fun. And then I think that's really, as we talk about this, I think that's really just, I think to me, there's a movement that needs to be had to raise awareness of this new model of retirement planning that needs to include not only holistically the financial components, but we need to start having more and more of those conversations, which I consider retirement coaching conversations, to make sure we're moving towards that satisfying retirement.
You know, one of your investments is to build a rich life team, and that sounds good, but do you have a firm, the Rich Life Advisors, you put together a team of interacting quality professionals. Do you offer advice to clients all across the U.S. so that, say, if I was a listener, I could go on your website and get access to all these experts in different areas? How would I do that? Is that something that your firm offers? Because it certainly sounds like a valuable service.
Yes, so there's really 2 components. There's more the retirement coaching, and then there's the retirement planning, which is more the financial component of that.
Yeah.
The retirement coaching, anybody that has questions, concerns, thoughts with that, send a message, and we'll reply. Either we'll reply directly, we'll reply in a podcast and tag you so that we get this answered. we're always answering questions like that. There's a handful of states where I work with clients individually for the retirement planning, but if that's of interest, you can let me know too that, hey, I would like that this idea, this retirement coach advisor model with this holistic plan. I like that. And if it's not a state I work in, I do work with a network that I could find somebody trained the same way. And here's my goal and my hope is that 10 years from now, that this model, or you telling me, hey, Bill, I work with a retirement coach, is just as normal as you telling me, hey, I work out with a trainer at the gym. I think it's the way the consumer is demanding we go.
Well, to close today's program, I'd like to quote a couple of great quotes from the foreword to your Beau Henderson's book, The Rich Life, 10 Investments for True Wealth. And the quote, Beau is every person's dream. He gives us the everyday, ordinary person, someone to turn to for advice, someone who truly is looking out for us. And a second quote, his philosophy for living the rich life is genius and appropriate for anyone wanting to balance making money, enjoying life, and honoring your purpose. And I highly recommend you go to Beau's website, beauhenderson.com or richlife.com. It's another alternative. And thanks a million, Buck, for joining us, and best of success in all that you do. It's certainly wise to plan all aspects of retirement, not just the finances, but what you really want to do with the rest of your life, because there's no greater freedom than to have all the money you need in order to live the quality life through your golden years. And thanks so much, Beau, for joining us. Bye for now.
Thanks a lot. Had a blast.
Well, my guest, Beau Henderson, has given an excellent presentation on the importance of planning all aspects of retirement as soon as possible, not just finances, but also how you plan to spend your free time that was formerly dedicated to your career. It's like envisioning the next stage of your career, except if you're prepared financially. And Beau has given you some suggestions on that. In retirement, you won't be constrained by the need to earn a living, and that's truly a great situation to be in. But before we go, I want to touch upon one of Beau Henderson's 10 investments he talks about in his book, For True Wealth, investment number 8, Build Your Rich Life Team. And that's a team that includes a top-notch attorney, tax accountant, financial advisor, and real estate expert. Maybe not all 4, but certainly at least 3 of them. And a crucial member of that team is a genuinely qualified, fee-based financial advisor with a track record you can count on, and you want to be sure that his whole interest is in you and not in his own commission. To emphasize the point, I'm going to tell you an unfortunate loss my wife Gloria and I suffered a few years back. Of course, the greatest loss was when our daughter Kristen died in a tragic crash of her Banner airplane on the last day of 2006, but she left us with a generous legacy of approximately $400,000. At the time, Gloria and I were working with a so-called personal financial advisor who had a very fancy office and all the trappings of success, and he purportedly worked with a number of well-heeled clients to build and protect their retirement portfolios. But in fact, as we subsequently learned, he was primarily a commissioned salesperson for a few life insurance and annuity companies. And that's a no-no. At the time, I was several years away from retirement, and we wanted some growth along with protection against a major recession. For the growth, we put approximately $100,000 into a Goldman Sachs managed stock fund with a fairly high risk. And for protection along with modest growth, I intended to put the remaining $300,000 into an indexed fixed annuity, a neat product that promises to provide a modest income growth along with protection of principal. And the advisor recommended an annuity that seemed to fit the bill. It was an annuity that guaranteed a minimum 6% annual increase in assets, and that was pretty darn good for that time. It sounded great, but what the advisor failed to tell me, or maybe I simply wasn't paying enough attention, I had to die in order to receive the guaranteed 6% annual return. In fact, the product my advisor talked us into was a variable annuity where my wife and I assumed full risk for a down stock market. And guess what? About then, the stock market crashed. It suffered the severe market correction of 2008, and as a result, the $400,000 inheritance from our daughter had dipped to around $300,000, a 25% decline in value. And part of that was from the growth fund with Goldman Sachs, and that we accepted because we had been willing to put 1/4 of our inheritance at risk. The major decline in our annuity, however, was not accepted. The bottom line, if our financial advisor really had been paying attention, knew our financial objectives and our risk tolerance, he would have warned us continually against putting the entire $400,000 at risk in $300,000 of it in a volatile variable annuity. The good news, in 2008, I was not ready to retire, and we had other assets that were not at risk with this advisor. But had we been ready to retire, and had this been our entire retirement nest egg, timing and quality of our retirement would have been severely impacted. Bottom line, Gloria and I fired this advisor and have not done any business with him since. We sold the depleted annuity with a nice tax loss carry forward for taxes and placed our funds elsewhere, and over the subsequent 11 years have had more than enough time to recoup our losses. But let this be a lesson to you. You need a qualified and diversified team of advisors to help ensure that you find true wealth and rich life in retirement. Because if we'd been ready to retire, I should say, back in 2008, we would have decreased our value of retirement assets by 1/4. And that's not a good thing to do. And also, one further suggestion, you must fully understand what your advisor proposing you get into, and you understand potential reward, and whether the proposed investment fits your stage of life, anticipated date of your retirement, and just how large the potential gap between now and then that you're attempting to fill. And perhaps most important, please ensure that you don't have to be dead to receive the promised return. That was my bad. And that's our program for today. Don't forget my book, A Midlife Challenge Wake Up by Roy C. Richards. You'll find it on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. And my book contains a whole section on transition to retirement, along with a whole bunch of other information on moving from where you are today to where you'd like to be tomorrow. And tune in again next week for more reasons why middle age can be your best age and how you can help ensure that indeed it is. Bye for now. Talk to you again next week.
You've been listening to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, hosted by Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of both A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, and Wake Up, Captain and Crew, Restart Your Engines. You can learn more about Roy and his middle age renewal training system by visiting his website, middleagerenewal.com.